Here is the last of my scraps that I've been cleaning up from my 30 Days of Sketches project. Hi, I'm Amanda with Crafting with Amanda, and I pulled out, when I sort my scraps, I sort them kind of into color families or color groupings, and so I pulled out one of those groupings, one of the smaller ones, and I'm going to show you in kind of some detail how I take those scraps and make them into other projects. Today's projects end up being 2 cards, but I think as we move forward you will see that some will be sets of cards, some will end up being book covers and all of that, and I'm going to try to do those on Tuesdays throughout November and really even into December, just as kind of quick and easy gift ideas that don't have to cost anything and should be with things that you already have around your house. Keep in mind that you don't even have to have true scrapbook papers to do this. You can have magazines that have the nice glossy advertisements in them. It's amazing when you look at them how much blank color is represented in those. So just take a look around you if you don't have scraps. If you are a paper crafter, you don't need to look very far if you're anything like me, because you will have some scraps in this envelope and then more in that envelope and then some more tucked under here and then a whole bunch that you had forgotten about that you shoved into that corner. So grab your scraps and let me show you what I do. So these particular set of leftovers are from the cedar and pine paper that I used in one of the 30 Days of Sketches Disney layouts. And so I just take basic printer paper. This happens to be a scrap of paper because I knew I didn't have that many scraps left. So I just did a standard card front of 5.5 by 4.25 scrap of paper. And then I like to use this two-way glue because it doesn't tend to bend the printer paper that much. It holds the scrap papers on it. I don't get lifting up under any of the edges. So for me, this is what I found works the best. And so as I'm putting these individual strips down, the widest one I have is really just over a 1/2 inch, but I want to have some variety, so that's why I cut down the black strips into 1/4 inch. I think the scarlet, which is kind of the red color, almost like a cranberry red color, those are 3/8 of an inch, so just under 1/2 inch. And that just helps give you some variety. And because I have so few scraps left, I'm having to cut off the longer pieces after I put them on the one side so that I have more choices to finish this out. And this comes together really quickly. Now you could go back at this stage. I don't do it today, but I will do it on some of our future projects. But you can go back and add ribbons. You can add the DMC floss along here. You can do a whole bunch of more layers on top of these scraps. So I went to the Make It From Your Heart Volume 6, and I'm choosing pattern 29 here because I know that it'll let me get 2 card fronts out of my strips or scraps paper. And then again, I also have embellishments that are leftovers. The ones in the blue bowl there are leftover from, I believe, my mom's Mother's Day gift from 2022. And so I'm just kind of searching through and finding colors that will work with our scrap piece that we made. And I don't end up showing you everything that I pull out on screen just because I think there was one thing in one more bucket and it was just a lot of sorting through it to find one more thing. But again, these are just ways to use up what you have that are kind of the one-off things that are left, that when you did your layout you removed one thing. I know some people are good at throwing those away or moving them on or making a project right away. I am not that person. I am the hoard it and squirrel it away for when I need it, and I'm working hard to get past that. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm going through and finding these components and seeing kind of what inspires me. So I loved, these are leftover what I made into Christmas trees last year. It was for a Twisted Sister project. But I was trying those because they're absolutely the right colors. When I pulled out my scrap paper, I do pull out my black and my white separately. So you saw that bin. And I wasn't sure if I was going to want some matting for some sentiments. I did know that I needed to have a second color for this sketch. So the pattern 29 calls for 2 pieces that are 1.5 inch wide. One strip, or actually 2 strips, are 3.5, and then the other color is 1.5 by 1 3/4. So with this card front, what I end up with is I cut it down to, or I don't cut it down to 3.5 yet, but I cut it down and I end up getting 2 1.5 inch widths and 2 1 1/4 inch widths. And that's what gives me my 2 card components that I need. I hope that makes sense. But if you haven't seen any of our Make It From Your Heart books or any of the pattern books, or you have any trouble with following workshops and patterns, give a shout out. I'd be happy to do a video kind of explaining more things. I feel like I've lost that side of who I am as a crafter. I always used to do workshops and teach, and I miss that. And so I'm trying to bring more of that now that my feet are kind of underneath me again here after our, 4th move. I'm trying to bring more of that into my world. So this will be card number 1, and these are the 1.5 by 3.5 inch pattern strips, and then the black are 1.5 by 1 3/4. And then I was just looking at the samples they have. In one of the samples they have it pushed up to the top, and in the other sample they have it pushed to the bottom, and I'm going to do that same thing. I'm auditioning my Christmas trees, or evergreen trees I should say here, and I feel like they're too overpowering. They're taking up too much of the background paper that we work so hard to create. So now I just have that lace scalloped edge, and I don't even remember what that project was that I did it in that color, because for my mom's heritage album back in 2022, I did all charcoal of that scalloped edge from a die cut I have. Again, I don't remember where the vellum flowers came from. I do know that they're one of the punches that I have in 2 different sizes. So I'm pulling out a piece of white daisy because I know I need to get my sentiment on here. So I'm just kind of playing with it and auditioning it and seeing what I like. I don't have another small flower, so I cut one in half because then you can offset the 2 petals, and that gives you kind of a half flower. You can also make those into buds by cutting them down even more into a wedge. So I know in my head I'm thinking, okay, I could do that with it. And I don't know if you notice people's fingernails and rings and that when they do videos, but if you notice on my left hand, I have just my pinky finger has a nail, and my other 3 don't, because I play guitar and I've actually been playing more. And then my right hand, I actually have nails and they look nice, and I always feel funny if I polish them because they're so unbalanced with how they look. And I like having fingernails, so I just walk around with half of me not having nails. I know you didn't need to know that, but if that's something you've wondered about, now you have the answer. So I like how the direction this is going in. I went to my sentiments stamps, and it actually took me a long time to pick a sentiment. I don't know if I have decision fatigue right now from putting all of this stuff away, but I did. But I love this stamp set. It's the Little Moments, and that's exactly the stamp that I decided to use. I have a couple friends in mind that I'm gonna send these out to. So I went and stamped that on actually multiple times. I think I ended up with 5 or 6 of them you can see in the upper right corner of my screen, because I figure I will use those in future projects. So the project I'm making today isn't necessarily for a gift. It's for Happy Mail that I'm going to write and send out. And then all I do is kind of try to make an even border between the outside edge and the like the upper edge and the 2 sides. And then I don't know where that circle came from, but it's the right color, and so it is getting used in our project. I'm going to slip this scalloped edge underneath, and it's interesting to me, and maybe this is just something everybody else knows or accepts, how that little laciness can just make a card feel more feminine, even with the dark colors, the blacks and the deep scarlets and the dark greens and all. To me, tend to feel heavy, like a study or a den, or a man's hunting decor, if that makes sense. But adding just that little bit of lace scallop kind of makes it feel more feminine, feel more like there's a lady's touch to it. So here, if you haven't seen my channel before, I like to shape flowers. Daisies are my favorite. So I am taking the same approach to the vellum as I do to any other cardstock, and I take my piercing tool and pinch it around each petal. And then for the vellum, once again, I'm going to use this zig glue. You can see through it, but it's not, to me, it's not like, oh, hi, here I'm a spot of glue. To me, it looks just like a darker spot of the flower, like there's a heavier concentration of the color in there. So I've always struggled with how to glue vellum, and I'm thinking this zig 2A has got to go top on my list. I'm looking at these. It's a pointed shape punch, very similar to the daisy punch that I have, and I'm trying to decide if I want to pinch each leaf, but because it comes to a point, I decide I'm just going to curve up the petals, and I'm also making it so that the lighter side of the cardstock is up. That's going to be our feature. So instead of it being the true scarlet facing up, I'm using the back side of that, so it's the lighter color, if that makes any sense. Close to my heart's cardstock has a white core, but it also has the true color, in this case scarlet, and the back side is like a lighter generation of that color, or variation of that color. So I have the little moments sentiment on this, just kind of doing some dry fitting. I'm very much a visual person, and so I like to audition where things go, and then sometimes glue them down not where I auditioned them. Don't know if you've ever done that, but I am really good at that. So again, I found this piece of, it's not DMC floss, it's a heavier twist to it, and you can't see that on the video, but it's kind of cool. It has texture right in the string. So I'm just making kind of a little knot of that, and I have a glue dot that I wrap around the edges and trying to pull it off the glue dot. Thankfully I have strong hands, because that was a bear today. So I'm just tucking that right under my flower, and then I'm going to go ahead and tuck that taller piece in as well, truly just kind of making a little loopy knot. And I'm loving that. You could add sequins to it, you could add shimmer brush to it, but I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm keeping this simple today, and gonna, like I said, take some time before I make dinner tonight and send out a couple of messages to gals that have been just amazing support in my life. Because I don't know if I've shared this, but my mom her health is declining, and so she is under the care of skilled nursing and also hospice. And so I'm going back and forth and just trying to manage all of that. And like, I'm gonna go, I think, set up my mom's Christmas tree before Thanksgiving, because that's what she asked for. So I'm gonna go over there next week, and just in doing all of that, I have some women in my life that have really been supportive and have kept my cup full. So these are going out to them. And then this is a piece of the gold DMC floss, as you can see, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to twist it into a spiral and put it in the center of my scarlet flower here. So getting it started is a little tricky, but once I get it started, then it really is just a matter of keeping the disc flat as I wrap around the thread. And I have a friend, Jessica Dzinski, that if she was doing it, I'm sure she would have actually gotten her needle and thread out and sewed it in the center, but I'm just gonna glue it down, and it looks beautiful, trust me. So these flowers are coming together. You can kind of see the direction of things. Again, I'm with these filigree leaves, because they're so open, it's hard to get glue on them, and because these are going to go in the mail and not have page protectors over them, I want to get them some good glue. So I'm using again that Zig glue and getting it all over my hands, and it's funny, it felt good to be crafting and doing that again. So glue the sentiment down, add the flower, and once again, these are done. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. If you have any requests for things you might like to see done, or you have questions on, like I said, just put them in the comments. There's lists of supplies and tools that I like to use in general in the description under the video. You can connect with me at these, and it's also under the video, but I hope you have a very blessed day. Thank you.